Hi guys, and welcome back to Adam's Aquatics. In today's video we're going to be talking to you about how to raise fry. So obviously so far we've talked to you about how to select breeding pairs, and we've also talked to you about how to make the breeding pairs breed, whereas now we're going to be talking about when you've got the eggs and we've got them fertilized and they're free swimming, what to do to raise them to a sellable size. If you're following the channel, you know these are obviously the Cacatoides fry that I managed to breed so far. They're great quality, I think, and I've obviously raised them to this size. And I didn't really lose very many. So how did I do that? So obviously I've shown you guys before, but I'll show you guys. I set up this little breeding system out of things that you can pretty much buy from your local supermarket or bargain store, with the exception of this little air pump, with the exception of this little power head, and there's a little bit of PVC. But you know, you can quite easily get that for a couple of quid for both of those. And then obviously I set up these breeding trays with a couple of sponges at either end. And then in here we obviously currently have the Master Eye Gold Fry growing out. Let's see if I can catch see the video of one of them. There's someone, there you go. Yeah, there's one of the little guys there. Two of the little guys there. There's quite a few in here, there's about 20, 25. And they're just growing out nicely so far. So this is the end of week 1. They've grown quite considerably, but I've obviously been feeding them 2 to 3 times a week. So let's just talk about that. So for the first 2 to 4 weeks, I feed exclusively baby brine shrimp. So, you know, I like to hatch this stuff out. It's very simple. You can get yourself one of these little hatcheries, or you can make one yourself. I prefer to do this just because it's a bit less hassle. These cost about These cost £9 each from Amazon. Just type in brine shrimp hatchery on Amazon, it will come up. And then yeah, it's quite simple. You pump air in through these valves, it goes up, it pumps them round. You do a solution of brine shrimp eggs with sea salt and dechlorinated water, and then yeah, you hatch these out. They take about 24 to 36 hours to hatch out, so you need to make sure that you're prepared. And then again, you just feed them to them 2 to 3 times a day. So what I do is I do a little tiny bit, I put a little bit in here, and then I just pour it in the tank, and then they eat it. They go around eating it, and then I suck up anything else. I literally just fed them, so you can see a few of them wriggling around in here. And then once that's gone, I'll leave that for about half an hour, and then I then suck the rest out with the pipette. Turkey based. So I feed them exclusively that for the first 2 to 3 weeks, making sure that they're getting a lot of food, making sure they're getting nice clean water. So I do water changes on this every day. So I change the water from the bottom. So I do 2 litres in, 2 litres out. So I pour 2 litres in here. I pour 2 litres directly into the trays. Okay, I do it really slowly, and then obviously that filters down, and then I take 2 litres from this end here and I pour it outside on my garden. So clean water is another one of the really big things that you need to be focusing on, because the cleanliness of the water is really important to make sure that the fry grow nice and fast. You don't want any nastiness, you don't want any nitrites, you don't want any nitrates really, and you don't want any ammonia at all, because that'll just kill them off. So you've got past the first 2 weeks, then what is your plan? So keep them in these trays until they get to and they start to look like an actual fish, which will be about 4 weeks. So I'm going to keep these guys in here until they get to 4 weeks old. I'll continue to do my water changes every day, and I'll continue to feed them the baby brine shrimp every day. But then from the second week, I'll then start to feed a bit of crushed flake. So I like to use this tropical fish flakes from Fish Science. So it has really high protein at 46%. It's really good food to be feeding to your fish. It also gets them ready for when you move them to a tank, and you know, you're starting to feed them not necessarily always live food, that gets them used to eating flakes. So you've got to week 4 and they start to look a little bit like little fish. What do you then do in order to get them to a size? So I'm going to move mine from the trays down to one of the little holding baskets down below, so that I can still see them and I can still see what's going on. So they're going to go into a little tray like this, where I can change the water every day by just simply pouring it out through this hole. Very simple. I'm going to keep them in here for probably another 4 weeks till they get to literally quite a substantial size. Last time I did this, obviously I did this in this little tiny tank, which we will be doing in the future. The plan is to change all those little plastic toty things into those little tiny tanks. it's just a case of money. So then they're about 8 weeks old, and you know, last time I moved them from the breeding box into like an actual tank, whereas this time I'm going to be using the grow out tote, which I set up and I showed you guys in a previous video. I moved my guys last time into here. So this is, you know, when I moved them into here, and then I just fed them, and I kept feeding them, and I kept feeding them, and I kept feeding them. Now, when you get the water volume to this sort of size, which is obviously 20 gallons, you know, which is about 64 litres, I think. It might be 80, it might be 80, it might be 78 litres, I can't remember the conversion rate. But when you get to like this size, you don't really have to change water every day. You know, this is when I've started to get them onto weekly water changes, because the water quality issue isn't as much. Make sure you've got a well cycled sponge filter or filter, whatever you're using, and then just continue to feed them as much as you can. Like these guys, if I fed these guys literally less than half an hour ago, but if I put a little bit of food in here, you'll see how crazy they go for the food. So here we go. They're starting to notice it's in the water, and then they'll start to feed. So it's very rare in this tank that I ever have any food left over at the bottom of the tank, because these guys just munch it all up as soon as they see it, because again, they're growing. So you just want to make sure that you keep feeding them and keep feeding them and keep feeding them. And then again, continue to make sure that the water quality is great, and then you'll be fine. So if I show you what's going on in the grow out tote at the moment. So I have to get my trusty little light out so you can see there's one there. These guys are about, I want to say about 6 to 8 weeks old. I can't really remember when I pulled them out. And obviously the difference is these guys, I didn't see them straight away, and I couldn't remove them straight away because of where she laid them in a tank. So these guys are going to be in here. You can see him there, just on that side. They swim quite weird in this little pot compared to like how you would see them in a tank, because obviously it's like it's different. It's a different environment. Yeah, and it's quite dark in here, so they're able to grow out without the fear of like predators, etc., etc. Because obviously the only thing that they really have going on is obviously me poking about in here, looking at them basically. So I continue to feed these guys, like again, baby brine shrimp, and then I do frozen foods and I do flake foods, and I just keep feeding them. I just keep feeding these guys until they get to a big enough size where I'm able to move them on, you know, to sell them. It's different with these guys, I can't really see the quality of them because of them being in a tote on the ground. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to continue with this method of grow out, but it gives a lot of volume of water, which is kind of why I decided to do it. And it also frees up one of the tanks for another breeding pair, so we can start cranking out in the fish room, like start cranking up production, start cranking them out like that. And that's kind of the plan, really. So in my local area, you don't really see pistos, Instagrammers, or like rams or anything like that. You don't really see them very often. Obviously the fish stores that I've talked about, Lee Valley Aquatics and Elite Exotics, they obviously sell them, but they're not close to me. Like, they're great fish stores, like really fantastic. I can't tell you how great they are, but they're not actually in my local area. They're both about 30 miles away from me currently. So that's a good 45 minutes, half an hour drive from me. Whereas I have like two fish stores really close to me that don't sell these type of fish. So this is where I feel like we can corner the market on my local area. Don't get me wrong, you're not going to make money. It's not going to happen. Like, you don't just go into a fish shop, think, oh, what can I breed to make a load of money? It doesn't work like that. Do something that you are interested in, it excites you, and you know it's something that you like to do. Because if you go into this thinking, I'm going to make loads of money, I'm just going to crank out loads of fish, then it's just not going to happen. Be realistic with your expectations as well. So like, obviously I managed to raise these, there's 9 of them all together, because there's 2 females in the below tank with my other Cacatoides male that I got from somewhere else. Like, a lot of people think that, like, fish crank out like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of babies, which they can do, but you know, you need to be realistic with the fact that that's probably not going to happen. And plus, unless you're really set up, you know, I feel like I've got quite a nice setup here that but even I can't crank out fish at that level, because I'd need more tanks, I need more space, I need to have more water, I need to have more of everything. Whereas if you go into this and you think to yourself, actually, you know, if I raise some fry and I enjoy that experience, then that's what you want. Not, I'm going to go into this and raise a load of fry and sell a load of fish and make a load of money. Just enjoy the process. So I've given you my top tips on how to raise fry, as well as a bit of a spiel about, like, don't expect to make a load of money. So let's just recap what we talked about. Feed them high quality food. Really, really, really important to feed them high quality food. You know, make sure that they have clean water, and try to move them to a separate tank if you can. Now, I'm not saying that if you have your dwarf cichlids breed in your community tank that you have to go out and buy another one. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that if you do want to breed them, and that is what you're interested in, then make sure you have somewhere to keep the fry, because if you don't, then the parents will, majority of the time, eat the fry. Unless you're set up to do so, do not pull the fry straight away as well, because you'll end up losing them. So I remember when I only had like the 3 tanks out here, so I had the display tank and the 2 cubes. I thought, yeah, cool, I'm gonna get my fish to breed, and I'm gonna pull the cave out, and I'm gonna raise them artificially, and it's all gonna be great. That is not what happened. What happened was, pulled the cave out with the fertilized eggs, and literally within 2 days, all fungus lay away, because I didn't know what I was doing. So if in doubt, leave them in the tank. That's another top tip. So yeah, if in doubt, leave them in another tank. High quality food, lots of water changes, perfect water, perfect water. That's what you want. So at the end of this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with some pictures of my boy Percy. He's obviously got his new female in the tank here, which obviously I showed you guys on Instagram. She's just hiding underneath there at the moment. They're just trying to get used to each other. This will be the new breeding pair of Agassiz, and hopefully we'll get these guys cranking out in the next few weeks, maybe a couple of months, because she's still really small. And then eventually we'll hopefully have some Agassiz in the fish room. Obviously, so far we've managed to breed Cacatoides and McMaster. Now we're going to try to breed Agassiz and Abiaxis when my Abiaxis arrive. But that's where we are. But we only do this because we enjoy it, not because we think we're going to make money. So if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at adams.aquatics, and I will see you on Tuesday for another vlog style video where we'll just go through the ins and outs of the fish room. Again, we've had some really ups and downs this week, some really, really, really good ups, and not so many downs. So we'll go through that. Hope you've enjoyed this video. See you next time.